Hello, time for some more fun with cuttings, as George Osborne would say, with our weekly look at the Continental papers. A week, of course, this filled with Roo headlines, and this was probably my favourite. Irish Daily Star, nobody gave ecstasy to Disco Kangaroo. Picture there of the bewildered beast that had problems at the club. And look, there's the marsupial too. Anyway, on to the real stuff, shall we? And first up for us, it's madness in Catalonia, where Barcelona have decided to sue their previous president for getting them in debt and make him personally liable for £45 million of the money owed. Bet that caught your interest, Man United fans. Basically, the club's new president, Sandro Rosé, has accused the previous fellow, Joan Laporta, for, in the words of one paper, pillaging the club. Under Laporta's watch, Barcelona, of course, established themselves as arguably the greatest team in world football, winning every single competition they entered 2 years ago, from the Champions League to the World Clubs Cup. However, says Rosé, Laporta also went on a bit of a spending spree with the club's money. Here's a rather handy list of some of the choicer items on the front page of Marca, who strangely find room for a Barcelona story on their front cover for once. Let's see. €2 million on espionage, €5 million to the agent in the Ibrahimovic deal, €90,000 for tickets to a U2 concert. All in all, far from leaving the club in profit, as he had claimed, Laporta actually ran up a loss of close to €80 million last season. Well, the new president does have deep pockets. The only problem is they're rather filled right now with the Catalan press, who, armed with these figures, have urged Barcelona to take punitive action against Laporta. And that's what they did. Last weekend, the club's ruling assembly voting to send Laporta to justice. The knives are out at Barcelona. Literally, in fact. Well, the decision was only reached by a narrow margin of 29 votes out of 1,200. Legal action should begin in the next 2 weeks, but I say should because at this point it has begun to dawn on the Catalan press that this might not be such a blinding idea after all. First of all, there's the real risk of what they call a civil war at the club, not a phrase to use lightly perhaps in Catalonia. El Mundo talking this week about unease in the dressing room and urging Guardiola not to take sides. Secondly, there's the prospect of some lawyers doing a full investigation of all of Barcelona's accounts and player dealings, and payments to agents, and all that kind of thing. Strangely, that's making some people at the club a little uneasy. Well, don't be too surprised then if the whole matter now does get quietly dropped, but if not, could turn out to be one of the stories of the season. That's better. Now on to the week's other news, which was dominated, of course, by those midweek Champions League games, featuring one particularly massive clash at the Bernabeu in Madrid, the derby of Europe. Real Madrid facing Milan, the only other club that's won anything like as many European crowns as they, and handing them a real lesson. 2-0 the scoreline. El País says the decadent were devoured by the team of the future. This was a long-awaited slap in the face of the Italian game, personified by Milan. Other headlines? They were 11 fantasticos, says AS. Marca, they're a proper team. And here we have AS again with the new king of the city, Jose Mourinho, saying, I declare a state of optimism. You're too kind, sir. The only sadness, says Marca, is the fact that Real only scored 2. 4 or 5 would have sent a message to Europe that Madrid is back. The Italian reaction? Well, more moo headlines than a newspaper for cows. Moo, lesson to Milan. Gazzetta dello Sport, Milan moo Tolito, left speechless. Republica, meanwhile, goes for rather plain Jane the lesson. They say Cristiano Ronaldo sliced Milan open like a prosciutto slicing machine. It was a surgical operation performed without anaesthetic, like Osborne's plans for the NHS then. Bit of politics, viewers. Anyway, elsewhere midweek there was better news, of course, for Milan's neighbours Inter, who on Wednesday night in the Champions League spent 45 minutes playing Spurs off the park and then 45 minutes playing them back onto it. 4-0 to 4-3. It could only be crazy, crazy Inter, says Gazzetta. Shouldn't come as a surprise since that is actually the title of their theme song. Inside, much praise for Gareth Bale, whose extraordinary second-half hat-trick nearly made a game of it again. Says the Gazzetta, he was outstanding. He's a player worthy to be at Inter. His runs and courage kept Inter in checkmate virtually on his own. Why, asked the paper, didn't Inter have a player on Bale? Presumably because they all play for Newcastle. Well, anyway, on that profound note, that's where we come to the end of this week's paper review. We'll be back in 7 days' time. Hopefully you will too.